A is for Abby. Abby is our beagle. B is for beagle. A is for apple. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you might remember I did some alphabet tags back in 2021 using the letters of the alphabet as prompts. I did a whole series of alphabet tags from A through to Z with a different video for each letter. This will be a remix of my favourite prompts from A to H. My name is Jim. This is my booktube channel, Books, Reading, Stuff. A. A is for Apple, A is for America. What do you consider to be the great American novel? Personally, I don't think there is a great American novel. The idea came from John William Defoe, and he suggested that though there wasn't one then, that one of the candidates could be Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Steve Donoghue, when he answered the question, suggested that we have a great American novel for each century, so that for the 19th century it would be Moby Dick by Herman Melville. If I were to suggest one great American novel, it would be East of Eden by John Steinbeck. It covers the geographical scope of America, going from west to east and then back to the west again. And it has a lot more optimism in it than The Grapes of Wrath, which is many people's favourite Steinbeck novel. But The Grapes of Wrath is very much centred on that great movement, great migration from Oklahoma across to California in the 1930s. I think East of Eden has a lot more happening in the novel. It's a lot broader in its scope. Other suggestions have been Kafka's America, something by Philip Roth, or there are many ideas of what is the great American novel. Beloved, even, by Toni Morrison. B is for bed. B is for banned books. Do you think there are any books that should be banned? Should Lolita be banned? Should the autobiography of Malcolm X be banned? Are there any books you think should be banned? I don't think any books should be banned. Obviously, I think there should be some restrictions on children accessing certain books, but for adults, they can choose what to read or what not to read. There are books I won't be reading. I won't read Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, for example. I won't read anything by Ayn Rand, but that's my personal choice. If you want to read these, you can read these. C is for cereal. C is for children's books. What was the last children's book you read? For me, it would be this one, The Rescuers Down Under, about Cody and about these mice who are rescuers. It's a Disney adaptation. It's with anthropomorphic mice and anthropomorphic characters, and it's set in Australia. It's a delightful children's book. I had a lot of fun reading it. I've also read it with my grandchildren, and I've read it with some of my younger students. Also, if like me, you're foolish enough to set an ambitious Goodreads target, I set a target for 100 books this year. Reading children's books will help you get to that target more quickly. D. D is for drum. D is for Dalek. And D is for the Doctor, Doctor Who. Who is your favourite Doctor Who, and what is your favourite book about time travel? I actually met Tom Baker in real life when he was Doctor Who a very, very long time ago. I found him a very abrasive man. I preferred Louise Jameson, his assistant, who played Leela at the time. She was a lot more friendly. My favourite Doctor Who would probably be Christopher Eccleston, who was the Doctor at the start of the reboot. He was only there for one season, but I thought he had a great character and a great sense of humour. My favourite book about time travel is The Time Traveller's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. The Time Traveller's Wife was about Claire and Henry. Henry had a condition, like an epileptic condition, where he'd have a fit and find himself travelling in time, which made it very difficult for them to have a relationship because Henry would meet Claire at different times in her life and different times in his life, so the age gap between them would be very variable. It was a fascinating read, an interesting premise, and I really enjoyed the book. E is for elephant. E is for ebooks. Do you prefer reading paper books or ebooks? Before the pandemic, I'd be reading almost exclusively paper books. But with the difficulties of the pandemic, I found it easy to download ebooks onto Kindle and read those. I have a Kindle app on my phone, and now I'd say 70 to 80% of the books I read are ebooks. They're easier to access. Here in Tbilisi, Georgia, we don't have a Barnes & Noble, so it's difficult to get the latest releases, and even if we can, they're very expensive. I don't tend to get the latest releases on ebooks either, unless I get NetGalley eArcs, and then it's pre-release books. I now find myself having some difficulties when I'm actually reading a paper book, wondering about who a character is, and I can't just search quickly to find out about the character. Or there's passages I want to highlight, and I don't want to mark the book, but it's very easy highlighting on the Kindle, and that goes to Goodreads, so it's very useful for reviewing books, reading them as ebooks. F is for flower. F is for Frida. Frida was my mother, but Frida is also Steve Donoghue's dogs. This is a chance to show us your furry friends. Cats, dogs, rats, whatever. A is for Abby. Abby is our beagle. B is for beagle. Say something, Abby. Okay. G is for Georgia. I live in Tbilisi, Georgia. That's the country. Have you read any books by Georgian authors or about Georgia? My favorite Georgian author is Nodor Dombadze. This is his book Granny, Iliko, Ilarion and I. It's set in Guria in the west of Georgia in the 1940s, a difficult time, but there's a lot of humour in this. I really enjoyed this. Georgian authors could also be from the American Georgia, like Alice Walker or Martin Luther King or Margaret Mitchell, Gone with the Wind. Georgian authors could also be Jane Austen. King George was on the throne when Jane Austen was writing. H is for Hardy, Thomas Hardy. What's your favourite book by Thomas Hardy? If you haven't read any Thomas Hardy, you could choose Hemingway or Patricia Highsmith, also great authors. I haven't read any Hemingway. I like Patricia Highsmith and I like Thomas Hardy. This is my favourite by Thomas Hardy, The Return of the Native. It's about a character, Klim, who returns to his native village, and Eudora is interested in him because she sees in him a way out, but he's returning to his native village to settle down and become a schoolmaster. He'd been a diamond merchant, but now he wants to return to his roots. It's Hardy, so most of the characters won't get a happy ending, but it's beautifully written. There's some great characters. Diggory Venn, the Reddleman, is a red character. He's coloured red because of the chalk and the material that he puts on the sheet, so they can see which sheep was with which ewe and things like that. And he's a fascinating character. And Thomas, there's a lot of great characters in here. I think Hardy is the countryside equivalent of Dickens. Dickens was writing mostly about the city. Hardy was writing about the countryside at the latter half of the 19th century. Who do I tag? I'll tag a few because this is an original tag. I want as many people doing this as possible. A is for Another Bibliophile Reads. So I'll tag Greg, Another Bibliophile Reads. B for Berna, Berna's Bookish Adventures. Also Alan over at Big Hard Books and Classics. And Elizabeth at Bouquin and Books. C would have to be Criminoli, I think. D, I don't know any booktubers with a D. Ducks, I guess pay attention with the ducks. E is for Elvis, an elephant. So Mark at Book Time with Elvis. F, Fee, Jeremy Fee. G, Gemma at Gem of Books, H, Nikki Hawks at The Obsessive Bookseller, and I'll also tag Steve Donoghue, that's a D, because, well, Frida is one of the tags, and because Steve feels left out if he's not tagged in every video. And if you like the prompts, please feel free to do this tag. If you like this video, you can like it. This will help the algorithm. I don't usually ask people to subscribe, but I'm very close to 800 subscribers, so that'll be a nice figure to reach. So if you want to be the 800th subscriber, you can subscribe. And I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.